Hello and welcome. My name is John Batchelder and I'm the Executive Director of the Dallas Chamber Music Society, here to present another episode of Chamber Music Chats, our video featurette hosting guest artists from our season's roster to engage in interesting, casual conversation about all things chamber music. Today, I'm joined by violist Robert Smissen and cellist Will Schofield, both members of the renowned Academy of St. Martin in the Fields Chamber Ensemble, who will be performing on our series on Monday, October 17th at 7:30 p.m. Robert and Will, thank you for joining me this morning.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. So, I have some wonderful questions and really look forward to, speaking with you about your visit and upcoming performance. And so the first question I have for you, the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields is renowned worldwide as one of the greatest chamber orchestras, formed in 1958. That being said, our audience and some other audiences might not be aware that the musicians of the orchestra also comprise various chamber ensembles, including the string octet that will be coming here later this month, a wind group, a mixed ensemble. And so for those members who this might be news to, can you talk a little bit about this group, the chamber ensemble, and how it came into being?
Shall I take that one, Will, for a bit?
You start and
okay, and you interrupt. Okay. Yeah. Well, the chamber ensemble, the strings, it's made up of the front desks of the orchestra, and the Academy's a unique group in the way that it's so flexible. So we may play anything from sextets, even smaller sometimes, to octets, then through to a chamber orchestra that may only be 15, 20 players, up to a classical sized orchestra, and occasionally to symphonic size. But the thread through all of this is that predominantly we are unconducted. We're usually directed, self-drive, often with our music director, Josh Bell, who we do some of the larger symphonic repertoire with, but also some of the more intimate works through our repertoire.
But also, when Neville Marriner and his friends and colleagues started, it was a very small group, string group, and it was started with they just wanted to explore chamber music, small scale music and as it grew, I think then as the feet left the ground, as it were, then I think they felt that there was a need to reintroduce that. So I think the chamber ensemble originally was formed in the late 1960s, some 10 or so years after the Academy was initially founded. And also, I think there's always been a tradition of chamber musicians playing with the orchestra. And I think it's informed the way we operate as a group. Even when Neville had his knighthood and was Sir Neville Marriner, then he always never had a problem with anybody speaking up in a rehearsal from any part of the orchestra. And so sometimes in a more traditional symphonic setup, there's a stricter hierarchy. So comments and questions get funneled through the principal players, and if at all. And with us, then there's always a feeling that, within reason, you don't want mayhem, but people can speak up and contribute. So I think in a way, the two things do go together. Our chamber orchestra as an orchestra has a sort of chamber emphasis on the orchestra thing.
I think also, just adding on to that just a little, is that we are freelance musicians. Whilst we're members of the Academy, we all have other ensembles and other things that musical interests, and so our schedule is there, and people choose to do it, not are forced into doing a certain percentage. So it has a very different flavour to other musical setups.
Mm-hmm. Actually, three of the group, the string octet, myself and Martin, who plays, was Martin third or fourth violin?
It depends which piece we're playing. Yeah. He swaps around, picks the tunes, yeah.
And Fiona, who's the second viola, we played quartets together for years. We've been playing quartets together since before we all played in the academy. So there's this. It's been a very flexible setup, and that's how we like it, because it gives us freedom to grow and do other things and play with other musicians. And we all really particularly like playing chamber music. I mean, we're really excited about this tour. It's the first one for a long time. We were so disappointed not to be able to come and play to you in the last few years, and we're hugely excited about this one.
Well, us as well. Interesting. Well, you mentioned that the intimate nature of the orchestra, the chamber orchestra, and being able to speak and talk during rehearsals and put input. Our audience, we've had our series regularly presents the Dallas Symphony Chamber Players, which is, again, principal players that operate in different ensembles and perform. And our community is much more used to the grand symphony, Dallas Symphony, large orchestra setting. And what you described with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields is much closer to that of a string quartet or smaller ensemble. Can you maybe just briefly describe a little bit, again, for those who might not know quite the difference, maybe some of the differences between the chamber orchestra setting and the large orchestral symphonic setting?
I think it's less the difference between the chamber orchestra and large symphonic setting. I think the key thing here is that it's directed from the first violin seat, whether that be Josh or Tomo when we're doing smaller chamber orchestra material. And that necessitates every member of the ensemble, and we still call the larger orchestra an ensemble, to know the score intimately, to have a level of autonomy that may not be there in a different setting. You will get string players talking to wind players about how to approach or come in on a certain thing, because the wind are flying blind, or they're certainly flying deaf a lot of the time. They're relying on signs from us. And so we find that our wind players are rather adept at interpreting string bowings and things like that. They know how to come in with that. And with the string players, yeah, eyes are up, and it's very much a communication. This link with communicating all the way through.
There's no real set formula, because I mean, for example, when we play with Joshua, then he comes with a very, very clear and very compelling vision of what he wants and how he wants the music to go, and he very much directs. He is very much in charge, and there's very little reason for us to input as much as we might when we work in different settings. So it's something all we're wanting to do is make exciting concerts and exciting music. And somebody with the energy levels of Joshua Bell, it's very much that we jump on to what he wants, and it's incredibly exciting to do the really big repertoire. We did on the last big tour of the States before the pandemic, orchestral tour, we did Brahms' Fourth Symphony, and it was amazing to play that kind of music where you're on the edge of your seat listening and interacting. But it was absolutely directed from the first violin chair with Joshua Bell. So I think we like to be flexible and like to adapt and play in different ways with different people. It makes the whole thing more fresh. Every tour we do is slightly different. There's no rigid formula, and we like to have this spontaneity about how we approach each relationship musically.
Right. Well, speaking of Brahms, he's featured on our upcoming program here on our series, a program that is robust and incredible, culminating with Enesco's masterful but rarely heard octet. Can you talk a little bit about the program and a little insight in the choices and repertoire selections?
Well, maybe what I'll do is say how we possibly came around to these programs that we're carrying for this tour, and then maybe Will can link that up in a more musicological sense. I think the frustration of missing a couple of our fall tours in the States weighed heavily with us. This is this is what we look forward to doing. We love touring the States with the ensemble. And so really, I think we're just going back to our roots here. With Brahms, we're carrying Mendelssohn Octet, Enesco Octet. You know, these are pieces that we've lived with for some of us for an awfully long time, others for maybe a little less. But yeah, these are at our core. So innovation, not this time. We're bringing the repertoire that we love and that we've missed playing over the last few years.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about the Enesco being rarely heard. Maybe sometimes people are hesitate to put it on because it's not, you know, faced with the Mendelssohn Octet. You think, let's hear the Mendelssohn again. That is such an incredible and rightly famous piece. People will come to listen to it. But I'm one of the people that I did play the Enesco on a tour a few years back. We only got 2 performances of it, and that's my experience so far of it. So I'm really excited to be doing it. I think we're playing it 6 times on this tour.
Wow.
And so I you know, that's what I'm looking at the moment. I'm really enjoying relearning it and looking at you know, all of the problems. And it's funny what you say. The other reason why it might be rarely performed is it's really hard.
It's huge.
And
I'm thinking about Robert over there. The first viola and first violin part. Oh man, huge parts.
No, yeah. They're huge parts, but also just fitting it together because it's such a complex piece. And what's interesting is that he wrote it. He was very young when he wrote it, and he secured a first performance in a prestigious series in Paris, and it got abandoned after 5. They rehearsed it. They had 5 rehearsals before they pulled it.
Wow.
And he had to wait another 8 or 9 years to get it performed. And
then he conducted it.
And he had to conduct.
John, are you conducting our performance? We usually pick somebody up, you know, at each venue.
Well, I didn't want to tell you now, but you know, it's a surprise.
So we do know why it was conducted in the first performance, because it is quite a challenge, but actually that makes it incredibly exciting. And as Bob says, it really basically requires that we all 8 of us know what's going on. And going back to the program and how it fits together, I think that what you have in the first half, if you like, is a kind of preparation, because the Bach is it's just a masterwork in demonstrating contrapuntal technique, and the Brahms is just hugely lyrical and romantic, and the Enesco is both of those things. So I sort of think the first half, although it's a substantial first half, it's a really good, you know, entree or you know, hors d'oeuvre or whatever you want to call it to the meal of Enesco, which is quite a rich meal.
Right.
I don't think anybody's ever described Brahms' Opus 18 as an hors d'oeuvre, really. a booze, you know. It's a
contextual thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a Texas size hors d'oeuvre. You should see some of the plates they bring out here as appetizers.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because, Robert, you mentioned this program, you know, a lot has to do with just playing, going back to your roots, playing things that you just love to play and you've played for some time, you know, and I think as myself being a string quartet musician, about the challenges of programming between just 4 people and let alone 8 people or more. Can you talk a little bit about your process as the chamber ensemble when it comes to, you know, this program, other programs, deciding repertoire? Because I can only imagine with just more people, twice as many as a normal string quartet, you know, that can be kind of challenging and but also be very interesting in terms of the conversations that are being had.
Sure, but the one thing to remember with our ensemble is that while we play throughout the season, it's only one string to our bow. And therefore, when you come to repertoire, most of the repertoire, our core repertoire, we don't get tired of. You know, when we come back to, so if we had only, say, 12 pieces to play over the next 5 years, that would be thoroughly enjoyable. Last time we came over with the string octet to the States, we brought a new commission over by Sally Beamish, who a really lovely lyrical composer. If you haven't come across Sally, I'd really explore her repertoire. A violist, and had played in the academy for many years before really branching out into composition. And so we took her octet with us and there. And so with the Mendelssohn and the Sallies, and we often do the Shostakovich, then with Enescu, then you're going to Svensson and maybe Raff, things like that. So those are our core elements. And because we've got 8 players, we usually like to employ them. On this tour, they're getting a little bit more time off probably than they'd wish. But I think what we've aimed at is this, as Will was saying, this structure for this program and going about. As to picking repertoire, really, this is, I think this is often a three-way thing between what an audience may wish or need, what a promoter feels will go down well with the audiences that they know, and if there are things that we wish to bring to the table and say, hey, yeah, but just what about this? And because we are not doing it all the time, those influences often sit pretty well in the melting pot, and we come out with programs that everybody feels pretty comfortable with. Yeah.
Well, kind of shifting a little bit from the programs, this is not the first time your group has come to Dallas. You previously performed on the series in October of 2015. Are there things you're looking forward to coming back? What are some of the things you're looking forward to about returning to our city?
Key lime pie, surely. I mean, actually, I really rather love the approach to Dallas, driving Dallas. There's maybe it's for us Brits. There's something rather romantic about it, and I'm not talking about Dallas, the TV series. About we've driven across Texas. We've been down to the far south of Texas. We've played in Midland in a basketball stadium. We've been. Yeah, there's something quite special about driving into Dallas, and that's why I was asking you about the drive times, things like that, so that we're not rushed sometimes, and that we can take in our surroundings.
Right.
The other thing, of course, is to really try and just get the timing right. Timing is important for musicians, even when you're considering the fact that we're coming just as the weather in England gets too cold, right, and the weather in Texas ceases to be too hot. So that's what I'm looking forward to as well.
You hit it perfect. You hit it perfectly. Like I was mentioning earlier, we're just sort of over that hump, I think, of the triple digits lingering summer.
No, we're hitting the sweet spot.
You're really hitting the sweet spot, yeah. Well, great. I only have a couple more questions. Sort of more personal questions about your experience, each of you in your chamber music life. And the first being, do you have a chamber music experience, whether it be as a performer, educator, administrator, or just an audience member that holds special significance to you? Perhaps one that the experience that had you catch the bug of chamber music, or had a profound influence on you?
For me, I mean, it's difficult because we have lots and lots of high points, and this is going to sound terribly corny, but I think that kind of, I'm looking forward to this next tour, because you've got to keep looking ahead and being excited and engaging with what's coming. So I'm genuinely thrilled that we're coming to play for you and returning to the US. And as for the seminal one, it would have to be when I was just very fortunate as a child to live in a part of London where there was a go-to violin teacher who who had a very enlightened way of teaching. She did group lessons with her. She gave individual lessons and group lessons, and in the group lessons, then chamber music was a massive part of how she taught. And she needed cellists, so I got to go along and play string quartets when I was, you know, in high school age, and it was just the highlight of my week as a child. Was the Sunday evening doing that, and I think that's really why I'm still trying to do this thing. And it's the anticipation is the best thing, anticipation of a concert and of playing amazing music.
I'm going to go off the music piece in a way and kind of reinforce what Will's saying. For me, I find it difficult to separate the travelling around in the States to university towns. Often, you see, we're far more autonomous when we're within the ensemble. We pick up cars from the airport, we drive, we can look at that. I think Will and I have visited anything from Civil War battlefields to art galleries, had tip-offs about restaurants that we'll drive out of our way to go to, you know, and this is a pretty friendly bunch, which I hope you pick up while we're playing. And so with eights, unlike a quartet, there's always room if you want to just be on your own for a bit, or you know, there's room to meld. And we've been touring together, you know, for most of us for 20 odd years and more. So for me, it's backing up what Will was saying. Yeah, it's the flavour. It's looking forward to this tour, and it's looking forward to the things that you're not really expecting, like the coffee stop or getting to a venue and meeting interesting people and having a good old chat afterwards, and yeah, soaking that up, having done what we want to do, which is, you know, play phenomenal chamber music.
Well, you're looking forward to the tour. We are looking forward to having you here. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Will. And thank you to our audience members for watching. Again, the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields Chamber Ensemble will be here performing on our original date and time. That is Monday, October 17th at 7:30 p.m. I guarantee it is a performance you will not want to miss. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.